It's April 7th, 30 AD, in Jerusalem. A condemned carpenter from Nazareth hangs on a Roman cross. The crowd mocks him. His disciples have scattered in fear. Everything appears to be over. 3 days later, history takes its most dramatic turn. What really happened after Jesus died? Was the resurrection simply a legend invented by his followers? Or one of the most significant events in human history, supported by the historical record? Many today dismiss it as pure faith, not history. But what happens when we examine the evidence using the same rigorous historical methods applied to any other ancient event? If every natural explanation falls short, and falls significantly short, can we, through the process of historical investigation, conclude that something supernatural quite likely occurred? Welcome to the Jesus Files. In this episode, we open the file on the resurrection and look at what serious historians, regardless of their personal beliefs, consider to be the well-established facts. Chapter 1. Jesus existed and died on the cross, the undisputed consensus. First, the foundation. Jesus of Nazareth was a real historical figure. This is accepted by virtually all historians today, including skeptical, agnostic, and atheist scholars. As of 2026, this consensus remains rock solid. Even the most recent research has only strengthened it. A major 2025 study by historian Thomas C. Schmidt has uncovered fresh evidence about the Jewish historian Flavius Josephus and his close connections to the very people involved in Jesus' trial, making his reference to Jesus even more reliable. We possess over 40 ancient sources that mention him, remarkably more than for the Roman Emperor Tiberius, who ruled during the same period and is referenced by only 10 authors. Jesus was a simple carpenter from a small village. He held no political or military power. Yet more historical records speak of him than of the emperor himself. Even critical scholars such as Bart Ehrman, Paula Fredrickson, and John Dominic Crossan, many of whom do not identify as Christian, agree on this. Jesus died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate, with a very high degree of historical certainty. Archaeology continues to confirm the world in which these events took place. In 2025, excavations beneath the floor of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem uncovered traces of an ancient garden, olive trees and grapevines, dating to the pre-Christian era, exactly as the Gospel of John describes the site of the crucifixion and burial. Now in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb in which no one had yet been laid. Why this broad consensus? Every early source, both Christian and non-Christian, reports the crucifixion. Roman crucifixion was a brutal and efficient method of execution. No one survived a full Roman crucifixion. The criterion of embarrassment applies strongly here. Early Christians would never have invented a story in which their promised Messiah was publicly humiliated and executed as a common criminal. That detail was deeply scandalous in their culture. Even Muslim scholar Reza Aslan, in his book Zealot, acknowledges Jesus' death on the cross is historically certain. He builds much of his work on that premise. The Jewish historian Josephus and the Roman senator Tacitus both independently confirm the same event. Jesus was crucified under Pilate. Chapter 2. The three minimal facts. What almost all historians accept. Historians Gary Habermas and Michael Licona have developed the minimal facts approach. They focus only on those facts accepted by the vast majority of scholars, including skeptical, agnostic, and atheist researchers. Three core facts stand out as particularly well supported. Fact 1. Jesus died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. We have already examined the strong evidence for this. Fact 2. Jesus' disciples sincerely believed that he had risen from the dead and appeared to them. Within weeks of the crucifixion, these men underwent a radical transformation. From fearful fugitives hiding in Jerusalem, they became bold public proclaimers of the resurrection, willing to suffer and die for their conviction, right in the city where the events could easily have been disproven. Fact 3. Even some of Jesus' former enemies and skeptics became convinced that he had risen. Two particularly striking cases stand out. James, the brother of Jesus. During Jesus' lifetime, his own family was skeptical. The Gospel of Mark records that they thought he was out of his mind. Yet after the reported resurrection, James suddenly emerges as a key leader in the early Christian church. Paul, formerly Saul of Tarsus. A zealous Pharisee and fierce persecutor of Christians, he had power, status, and a promising future within Jewish leadership. Suddenly he reverses course completely, becoming Christianity's most passionate missionary. He repeatedly risks imprisonment, torture, and death because, as he repeatedly testifies, he encountered the risen Jesus. Early records also claim that more than 500 people saw the risen Jesus at one time, mentioned in 1 Corinthians 15, written roughly 20 years after the events. Chapter 3. The non-Christian sources. What do outsiders say? Importantly, these claims are not limited to Christian writings. The Babylonian Talmud, drawing on earlier Jewish tradition, refers to Jesus as one who practiced sorcery, incited Israel, and led the people astray. While framing his deeds negatively as black magic, it implicitly acknowledges that extraordinary events were associated with him. Tacitus, one of Rome's most respected historians, writes around 115 AD. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilate. Flavius Josephus, the prominent Jewish historian, states around 93 AD. About this time there lived Jesus, a wise man. He won over many Jews and many of the Greeks. Pilate condemned him to be crucified. On the third day he appeared to them restored to life, and the tribe of Christians has still, to this day, not disappeared, even allowing for possible later Christian editing in parts of Josephus's text. The core historical reference to Jesus' crucifixion and the persistence of his followers is widely accepted. Additional references from writers like Lucian of Samosata further confirm that early Christians worshipped a crucified sage. Chapter 4. When all natural explanations fall short. Historians cannot directly prove miracles. However, they can legitimately ask whether any natural explanation adequately accounts for all the established facts. The disciples were devastated and scattered after the crucifixion. Suddenly they risked everything to proclaim the resurrection. Group hallucinations do not easily explain simultaneous group experiences or the dramatic conversions of skeptics like James and Paul. Theories of body theft face the problem that Roman and Jewish authorities could have simply produced the body to silence the movement. When every naturalistic explanation falls significantly short of explaining the rapid rise of the early Christian movement and the transformed lives of both followers and former opponents, the historical record leaves open the serious possibility that something beyond ordinary explanation occurred. Conclusion. The Jesus files show that the resurrection is not merely a matter of private faith. It rests upon a foundation of historical facts that the majority of scholars, across a wide range of worldviews, find remarkably difficult to dismiss. If the creator of this vast and finely tuned universe chose to enter human history as a man who died and rose again, that would represent the ultimate turning point in the human story. God stepping into his own creation to bring hope, forgiveness, and new life. Jesus is presented not only as the image of the invisible God, but as the hero humanity has longed for at the deepest level, the one who faced death itself and emerged victorious. This is the extraordinary claim at the heart of the earliest Christian testimony, that death was not the end, and that through the risen Jesus, a new chapter in human history had begun.